Test. 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 Test.
I can watch on StreamYard as well, right?
Yeah.
From the soundproof.
Trying to make this thing louder. It's at 0. I think it's working. So this is like we're currently live. Okay. Good morning. I think it's working. So this is like we're currently live. Oh, there is. Okay, just.
I doubt that you
Hello. Well, first, oh, there is. Okay, just. Even though I have but that's
Yeah, I'm not quickly sending people emails, SMSs because they're not taking my calls.
so many plastic cards. So is that someone?
Test.
Yeah, sounds good.
Test. Test.
I think it's doing.
Test.
Oh, you know what that thing is doing? Is it's working for his microphone, but
Test. Test. Yo.
so we can hear you very clearly.
Can you?
Very nice.
Okay.
The only thing is there's no headphones on this
Right.
now, because now when you've plugged that in,
Yes.
that's taking away your headphones capability.
Right.
Because it's only microphone. Unless there's a setting, can you go to your audio setting? Or can you go to that stream? Just go cam microphone, please. Audio. Speaker.
Speaker.
If you just go to the speakers, just see what that does. Just test.
Test. Right.
There we go. Okay.
Cool.
There we go. So now I think we can continue a microphone. That microphone.
So lapel is going into this, and this goes into this.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Because what we'll do is make it nice.
Feel more comfortable. You put it down onto your side.
Take this away.
It goes to it.
The nice thing is once this is set up this way, you're roaming.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have the camera and you can.
Exactly.
It's like lockdown, but mobile.
Yes.
Lovely.
Live. Well, that's probably the problem. We got a proper message to people with walking, chatting, just a bit more flexible. See, not chat by your phone.
You see, you can actually now, because your
Fly me to the
you can walk
moon.
away.
I really can't because of this.
No, you can. That can be in your pocket.
Yes.
Fly me to the moon and let me. What? Well, hopefully not. Can we do a quick comms test just on earphones for me, please? I heard a bleep and nothing else. Let's do that again with a bit higher volume. Now, high volume on my side. Speak again. I can hear that you're saying something. I can't hear a word you're saying. A little bit better, yes. Do you want to send the link? You can send the link. I really can't hear you. You're going to have to really speak into the microphone.
Hi, Helene, hoe gaan dit?
Dankie en self.
Goed, hoorie, ons kan by stream link deel met die panelists asseblief, die link wat ek vir jou gestuur het.
Ja, moet ek dit vir hulle stuur?
Ja, daai StreamYard link, daai kan na die speakers toe gaan.
Okay, perfect.
Hallo Eline.
Okay, cool. We gaan net, hoeveel
gaan
gaste
dit-
het ons vanmiddag? 2.
Twee gaste met Tommy en Jaco. En dan is daar 2 mense van NFC wat net wil sien.
Okay, cool. Dean, if we drop you, you can't drive, so you're going to drop me. I'm going to drop. Okay.
Maar ek hoef ook dit...
So ek gaan net 'n rukkie saam met julle wees. Daar gaan my video verdwyn, sodat ek julle van agteraf sal ek dit hanteer.
Okay. Okay.
Let's go to single cam.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me know what life is like. Say again. Yep.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, here's Gunnar from NABC.
Hi, Gunnar. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, how are you?
Good, thank you. We're just waiting for the 2 speakers.
Guys, just a quick question. Guna is joining us. Guna, you from NABC?
Indeed.
Okay, cool. I'm going to send you via Helene just a watch link.
Sorry, could you repeat that? Your line is breaking.
I said what I'm going to do is just send you a watch link for YouTube.
Okay.
So if you can go to the watch channel.
Okay. How do you do that?
Hey Dean. Yes. I to confirm where he's sending the watch link to.
Okay.
Thank you. Judith? Judith?
Maybe her thing is on silent.
Judith? Yep, I can hear you. Gunnar? Gunnar? Hello?
Yeah,
Gunnar, yeah, I can hear you
barely
now.
hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
You sound very far away, which I know you are.
How's that?
Helene, can you hear us?
Gunnar?
I just muted my mic,
Oh, you muted your audio. Helene, we're trying to explain to Gunnar just to go to the private link and to watch via YouTube. Dean?
Yes.
So Gunnar was going, was saying that my audio quality was bad. Are you happy with audio quality as it stands?
Yeah, so far it sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's audio quality is better than you swap out today. Needs to come back.
hello, can you guys hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, okay. I think I used to be backstage, but I'll switch off my mic, my video at least, and my microphone. I'll mute myself.
Okay, so the only issue I think is that we have a maximum of 5 slots to be in this room. So the easiest is going to be if you look at the chat, I'm going to send you a link, and then you can watch it from there. Let's see. So can you see that link? Good enough.
Take off comments. Just stick it. Why did you do that? I did that because otherwise people can see.
Is anyone there? Oh, wow, I'm muted. Is anyone there?
Yeah. Hi, Elaine, how are you? They're just busy getting Johan in a more comfortable spot, a spot that sounds a bit better.
Hi.
Can you hear me, Elaine? Can you hear me?
Hi.
How's it? We're just busy getting Johan into a more comfortable spot in our studio quickly. It sounds a bit better as well. He should be back online in a few seconds.
And then I just spoke to the 2 panelists, and they're both busy now logging in, so they should be on any minute.
No problem.
Awesome, thank you.
Hello, Ian.
Hi, Jaco.
Yes.
Hi, Jaco. Wag net vir Matumi om op te kom en dan gaan die Spice wat dit reël sal vir ons dan vertel presies hoe dit werk.
Okay. Right.
Awesome. En hoe gaan dit? Dis ek 'n vrek met my kant.
Jaco.
Ja, ons is baie besig. Hallo.
Hallo, Johan.
Jaco.
Ek is seker.
Hoe gaan aangenaam?
Ja, dis Johan.
Jaco, ek dink ons wag net vir Matumi.
Okay.
Van Enzozaden. Maar laat ek net vinnig 'n idee gee van wat ons vandag wil doen is basies twee goed vir ons webinar uiteindelik. Die eerste ene is net om vir almal gemaklik te maak met die tegnologie, sodat ons almal weet hoe dit werk en dat ons as ons nou die regte gesprek het, kan ons fokus op die content en die tech nie. En die tweede ding is ek wil met jou en Matumi net vinnig gesels vanmiddag oor hoe ons daai gesprek wil stuur. So wat ons weet wat interessant gaan wees op hierdie stadium en die goed waaroor ons nie heeltemal seker is nie, waarvan ons 'n bietjie wil wegbly. So ek dink ons behoort seker nie langer as omtrent 20-25 minute van jou tyd vandag nodig te hê nie. Net 'n struktuur vir die gesprek saam te sit en dan weet ons wat ons volgende week doen. Okay.
100%.
Ek vermoed hier kom Matumi nou.
Ja.
Matumi.
Ja, Matumi.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Matumi.
Okay.
Matumi,
Should I be
say again, Eileen?
So should I be, because I'm not going to be on here, so I should probably watch from the back end.
Yeah, you can have a
right
look at the watch end, but you're also welcome to stick around if you want to make a contribution to the conversation. I think it might be useful at this point because we're trying to structure the conversation. So, Matumi, if I can just quickly give you a little bit of background. My name is Johan. I'm from Space. I'll be moderating the conversation next week. This is one of 3 conversations that we'll be having about COVID-19 and impact on food security and supply systems and that sort of thing. So what we want to do this afternoon very quickly is just make everybody, including ourselves, comfortable with this technology, make sure that we've ironed out all of the technical issues so that when we do have our actual conversation next week, we can focus on content and not tech. And then with your permission, with what I'd like to do for the next 20 minutes or so is just structure our conversation to make sure that we're all talking about the same things, where we think we have information that might be of interest. And if there are any landmines that we want to avoid, then I want to make notes on those now as well. Does that work for you?
That's perfect.
Excellent. Okay, so what I think we'll start with is I have a technical team in studio. So I'm just going to make sure that everybody's happy with sound levels. It's Monet and Dean and Nandi, by the way, so you won't see their faces. You might not believe this. I'm actually the prettiest one they could find in this team, so that's why I'm on camera. Guys, everybody happy with sound? Everybody happy with everybody's sound? Jaco, can we do a quick sound test on you?
Yeah, we can.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is that good?
Okay, and Matumi, can we do a quick sound test on you?
Hi, hope all the quality is good.
A little bit closer to your mic, please, Matumi.
All right. Yeah, is that better?
Oh, that's much better. Much better.
Yeah.
If you can go a little bit closer still, that would be good.
All right. I'd actually just elevated my computer for angle, but otherwise I can't.
That's fine. If you could, oh yes, that's perfect. In terms of sound, now you have a. Now it's a. There we go. I think angle is fine.
Yeah.
Angle works.
Right.
Okay, cool. Dean, everybody happy with sound now? Okay, excellent. We're quickly going to show you the transitions. So we're gonna start on an intro, and then we'll show you full screen just to give you a sense of what will be happening on screen when we do the actual conversation. So I'm just going to keep talking for a while until they tell me to stop, and then stuff is going to happen, and we'll come back.
Okay.
And I'm still talking. Hey, Dean. All right, I'm going to keep talking until you tell me to stop. And I'm going to talk about anything, I think, for the moment, other than Corona.
So what is your background, Johan?
My background is I, at the moment, do communication strategy. My original background was psychology and sociology.
And where's the
And
studio?
studio is in Johannesburg. It's in Melville. It's at an agency
Oh, in
called
Melbourne,
Space.
just up the road from us.
Just up the road. If it wasn't raining, I could walk down to where you guys are.
Yeah, I'm in Parkview, so it's around the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 sec. Let me just check the studio.
It's funny how could
Yeah.
be also
That's Melville.
close to each other, but yet
Where-
can't physically.
Melville.
How's things at the market, Yaku?
Yeah, we've got our challenges, Matumi, but Pretoria market this morning was, and yesterday was a bit of a challenge with Metro Police and Riot Police. Not that there was any riots, but just a lot of people. So strangely enough, it's actually, but we are actually doing quite well. There's a lots of people that have rediscovered markets and the value for money that's available at markets. You know, if you go past the Spar shop, you'll find potatoes at $99.99 and everybody thinks it's a bargain. And when you go to market, you can buy it for $30.
Right.
And that's why we need to keep markets operating the way it's operating. We've had a bit of competition commission banter on the wavelengths, but I think we dealt with them. You know, guys, there is a lack of understanding in terms of free markets and the role of supply and demand, and we don't work with markups. The price is there whether we're there or not there. It's just our skill in the end of discovering the price and having it because it's fair and for everybody to see. If your price is wrong, your stock will mount up and you'll sit with the stock, and in the end that will either be thrown away because it's perishables, or you'll have to, the price will find its equilibrium low and then the farmers will be unhappy.
Yeah.
But the price is the price. It's nobody's happy with the price. It's what it is, and it's a foreign concept when you live in the world of markups and, as I call it, marginitis. We don't live in that world.
Jaco, I'm just going to interrupt you there for a second. So what I'm going to do just for the moment is I'm going to do a mock intro. We're going to cut to each of you guys as guests. So I'll do an introduction, and then the technical guys are going to play behind the scenes just to make sure that all the transitions and things work.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna come back and we can chat about the content of our discussion. So I'm going to count myself down in 3. Good afternoon, and welcome to our first discussion on the impact of COVID-19 on food supplies and food security in South Africa and around the world. I'm joined this afternoon by 2 guests, experts in their field, Matumi from Enzizaden and Yaku from the Johannesburg Fresh Produce Market. Matumi, welcome.
Thank you.
And Yaku, welcome.
Thank you. But it's not from the Johannesburg Fish Produce Market. It's from the RSA Group.
Oh, from the RSA Group. All right. I'm going to check these with you just before we log off today. We'll just check exactly what the identifiers and the positions are. Let me just check with Dean whether that's given him enough to play with now in terms of transitions. He's smiling happily. I think he's also smiling happily because he gets to be out of the home today. Okay, so Jaco, I think just give us a quick background in terms of what you do and what your focus is, and I'm going to ask the same of Matumi, and then we can chat a little bit about the theme for the discussion.
Okay, Jaco Westhuizen, I'm the CEO of the RSA Group, and we sell fresh produce on behalf of producers in 3 different channels, on central markets, fresh produce markets, into retail, and in the export channel.
Okay. And Matumi?
Okay. My name is the General Manager and also the Managing Director of Enzizaden South Africa, which is a subsidiary of Enzizaden BV, which is originally a Dutch company. We specialize, we're a vegetable seed breeding company, so we specialize in breeding of vegetable seed varieties, which we in turn then supply vegetable seeds to the commercial farmers. So in South Africa, we have a commercial operation, which basically involves screening, looking at new varieties according to adaptability traits for the farmer, but also looking at what the retailer or the consumer is interested in, which is more to do with the product quality. And so we are basically in the beginning of the vegetable chain.
Okay. Matumi, Dean's telling me the sound got really dreadful there at some stage. Have you changed position, or is there anything else that happened on your end that might explain it?
No, I haven't changed position. What I've
That's better.
Yes. No, I haven't changed position.
Okay, that was a lot better now the second time around.
What we've been observing, for some odd reason, the fiber hasn't been constant for the last couple of days. So that could also be the effect. But I understand that there's issues with some undersea cables or something.
Okay, Mornay's just broken into the conversation. Mornay Everson, he's helping us with pick at the moment. Mornay?
Hi, Matumi. How you connecting via your Wi-Fi?
Yes.
Do you have, by any chance, and we don't need to do it for today, do you have an Ethernet a network cable on your computer and somewhere you can plug it into the back of your router?
I'll probably run from I'll run it from the office.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll run it from the office. The internet hasn't been stable for the last couple of days.
Okay. And just for everybody's benefit, so what we're finding is an Ethernet cable directly from a network tends to be more stable for us at the moment than Wi-Fi. So if you can avoid Wi-Fi even at the office, that would be helpful.
All right, superb.
Okay, cool. So the initial brief was to get an understanding in our first discussion of what's happening, what the immediate impact in terms of food supply has been now of COVID and of the lockdown. So I'd like perspectives from both of you on that, how the supply chain has adjusted, to what extent we're seeing stability in supply, at least now during the lockdown, but then also if the lockdown is extended or if we're finding these disruptions extended over a longer period of time, what kind of response we can expect from the system. Then I think perhaps we can talk a little bit more broadly. If you've been reading science fiction, we've been expecting pandemics for 100 years. This is the first one that's really hit us, but it probably won't be the last. So what are the longer term supply system changes that we can expect? So there's COVID-19. We might have something in a year's time or in 3 years' time or in 5 years' time. So are we going to be adapting more permanently to this kind of shock to the food supply system? So I think maybe let me just stop there for a second. Are those questions that you feel that you are competent to address?
Yeah, I do think so. On the mark. Yeah, Matumi, you go.
Yeah, I think, but Matumi, go. We'll get back to Jaco in a second.
No, saying probably the impact on how I think producers have a lot of questions around is the virus also carried on produce? So I think those discussions are going to start coming forward, because on the other hand, there's been a lot of discussions lately before this about moving from reducing packaging. But now with this whole thing, I think people are actually looking for product which is packaged because it gives some level of security. So I think those type of patterns or those type of questions, I think, is also what's going to be coming in the future.
Just to confirm, my understanding is that this is not a foodborne virus at the moment, that there's no evidence that this is foodborne. This is
correct.
Respiratory, but you think it might be useful to spend some time focusing on that. If you're not breathing this thing in, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, maybe Jaco can elaborate a little bit, because I think there's actually in Canada and in the US, there's a lot of discussions that are being had at the moment. Yesterday, I also attended a town hall where it seems to be one of the big discussion points at the moment.
Okay. Jaco, that works for you as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think the question around food and is I think science so far supports that. Everybody is a little bit worried in terms of the life of the virus on packaging, etc. And when you get home, you've got to wipe everything off, etc. So that's interesting in terms of where people feel it's they're happy if it's in some form of packaging. I think the other element that we must not specifically in terms of markets is everybody's sensitive in terms of pricing and how is food prices being determined or discovered, and where we fit into the value chain is that we discover the price, or markets discover the price based on the interactions between supply and demand. And there seems to be a heck of a confusion because there's this lag between what's happening on markets and in the end what happens in retail. And it's very difficult to hold retail accountable in terms of price movements, etc. And you'll see, I think there's something like 5,000 complaints at the Competition Commission. But I think in terms of where markets sitting and being a low-cost economy of scale distribution sort of setup, we've seen an influx of people coming to market to buy. And we're lucky in terms of world-class farmers that they know how to produce under difficult circumstances. They've sorted out logistics to some extent. I think there is a question mark around logistics. The movement of people when they come to work to market is an issue, but those things I think all lead into how COVID is impacting on the food security and food supply chain. I think longer term, to that last question, certainly, I think if anybody is going to think the same about their business after this, they're not going to be around long enough to see the second pandemic coming. Because we certainly, from every instance in our business, we're looking at it differently. So certainly there's going to be some long-term effect in terms of markets and the traditional way of having that pressure of demand on markets and the volume of people and how you're going to react to that in future in terms of human contact. It's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a change coming, and technology is going to play a role.
So it almost makes sense, Jaco, to maybe start with you in our discussion about what has been the immediate impact in terms of price discovery, in terms of supply. How long can we last at current levels? Is supply coming through? All of that stuff, and then maybe move on to Matumi to talk about what he's seeing more broadly in the ecosystem in terms of what this is going to do to us in 6, 9, 12 months' time. Does that make sense?
I'm happy with that. Matumi's got to talk to his about.
Yeah, what I was also thinking is that there's a couple of aspects which we've identified, which have a knock-on effect to the final produce in the market. One of the things farmers are looking at the moment is also an issue of labor. So now you need to keep in mind what you're planting today is what is going to be delivered to the market maybe 3-4 months from now. But now there's a immediate concern of labor and whether there will be sufficient labor to be able to harvest the produce. So that is also something that I think that fits actually also somewhere in the beginning of the chain to say, yes, we probably have produce now because it was already planted. It's a matter of harvesting and packing and getting it to the market. But how do we see that? What is the impact of that in the coming months? Is there continuity of supply? Because that will only be determined if there's continuity in terms of planting programs.
Okay. Would it make sense maybe to do this? Is if we look at the sort of the pillars of food security, right? So you've availability, you have access, you have utilization, and stability. Is maybe to say what is the impact of this on each of those pillars over the lockdown period, so over the next 21 odd days, and then what can we expect over the next year, and then what can we expect long term? Does that sound like a fruitful way to structure it? Because then we can talk about labor, we can talk about distribution, we can talk about phytosanitary issues. Does that work for you?
Certainly.
Yeah, it works for me too. I think that structures it nicely.
Okay, all right. So we'll start then with availability, access, utilization, stability. We won't, I think, and then look at what the immediate impact is in the medium term and the longer term impact. Just in terms of immediate term impact, what are the key issues that you're seeing getting us through the lockdown, and if the lockdown's extended by another 21 days, getting us sort of through the short term?
Matumi, I'm going to start.
Yeah.
I think from a fresh produce perspective, traditional, we're going into a higher price period, and it's just interesting that we're in the sort of it's a change in season. It's sort of pre-winter. And normally over Easter and the April period, where you've got shorter trading months, you tend to see the uptick in terms of in the main vegetable prices. In terms of fruit, it's nicely stocked. Apples and pears and those products are very competitively priced. It's low, actually. It's not where it should be. And on potatoes and onions, you in the Western Cape season for onions, end of the Northern Cape, so there's normally a lag, and you see an uptick in pricing there as well. So from a supply perspective, if we can, like we said, we can keep labor, we can keep the pack houses going, we can keep logistics going, we can keep the markets going, and the DCs for the retail. We should be well stocked, but prices will be to the high end, will be up. Prices will increase.
So in a normal to be going up during this sort of season.
Lost you there, Johan.
In other words, if we weren't looking at COVID and lockdown, you would normally expect prices to increase by 5%, 10%.
It's difficult to say, but normally it's a higher price by 15, 20% to some extent. Yeah, lower. And in terms of COVID, our prices are actually lower than last year. That's the interesting part. So it has been an impact, because I think from a market perspective, your restaurants are closed, your hospitality trade's closed. So all of that purchase that normally is not there. So there's a bit of a lack of demand. But what sort of replaced it is that suddenly your taxi ranks are not that full. You haven't got the informal trader on the street, etc. They've retracted to home, back into where they stay, into suburbia or into the townships, and suddenly the spaza shops have started to take up slack, because suddenly their demand's increased, because the guys need every day need more, because they're not trading anywhere else. They in their homes and place of stay. So that sort of supplemented a bit, but certainly from an higher end buyer, the hospitality trade, restaurant, that's gone. So you would see elements within products. So suddenly large potatoes would have a very low price, because there's no demand for them, because that's are used for chips and for. So it's quite an interesting dynamic.
So essentially, it's a demand shock first, supply is adjusting, and are you then expecting to see a supply shock 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line, if you get into labor supply problems, as Matumi was saying?
have that. If you can't get the product off the lands and you can't pack them and you can't ship them, certainly the one part. The other part is we're moving into winter, and if we have early cold snaps like frost or whatever that influencing the stuff in 3-4 months time, by August, September, October, you'll see huge increases in price, certainly. And that, you know, it's not, it would, if we're still in the COVID process or the aftermath of it, and you have on top of that health issues, then it could be, then you could have a supply issue, yeah, certainly, and prices would skyrocket.
Okay, so basically, system under strain. Any normal shock that you would normally get, it may not be able to cope as quickly, respond as quickly, so the prices shoot up.
But yeah, 100%. If you've got a super storm, the impact could be interesting. Yeah, certainly.
Okay. But to me, does all of that make sense? Is there something you want to add to that part of it?
Yeah, I'll say the other thing that to also keep in mind is the most growers who are supplying either the market or retail, they've got sort of stable, consistent programs that they follow. So with idea of supplying certain quantities either on a weekly basis, whatever the case may be. So already, I think what would be interesting is with the stockpiling earlier on in the or towards end of last month, that also has an impact on the sales patterns, which already has an impact, and it would be quite interesting to see what that then what the knock-on effect is that on the rest of the season. Because if you've planted X amount with the intention of supplying in week X, and now you've pushed up some of your product to supply earlier, then at some point there's going to be a shortage. And I think even more so for the fresher goods like your leafy vegetables or whatever, which once it's ready you have to harvest. It's not like a pumpkin or something where you've got a bit of storability where you can, although it's ready, you can sort of manage your supply. Some products, when it's ready, you need to supply. So I think that is going to be interesting what the impact is on the rhythm, sort of the supply rhythm, so to say.
I mean, all of these decisions, the decisions for things that are being sold today, these decisions were taken 3, 6, 9, 12 months ago, right? So people, what we're seeing in the shops aren't decisions that are taken recently. So decisions that are now being made by farmers, for instance, in a lot of uncertainty. When will we start seeing those decisions feed through into the rest of the system?
Depending on the crop, I'd probably say about 3 to 4 months from now. Because if you think about it, as a farmer now, you are asking yourself, do I continue with my normal planting program, or do I downscale a little bit? What are things going to look like? And those are some of the decisions that farmers have to take now as to whether I follow my current program or whether I downscale in anticipation of low demand then. So I think that is something that we can't tell at this stage, but I think farmers are grappling with that. Then particularly for those crops which are more labor intensive, which you can't fully mechanize, then there's also the question of if we don't weather the storms, will there be sufficient labor to be able to harvest? But the other question is, would there be sufficient labor to plant? If it's a matter of planting seedlings, then do you grow or do you actually downscale a little bit? So I think in certain instances we'll probably see a little bit of a downscaling in terms of programs or in terms of supply, and in other instances maybe there'll be a slight increase. And like Jaco mentioned, the other interesting element is always what the weather does, because if it cools down quicker, already that has an impact on supply immediately. If we hit early frost, but then if it's warm, then it means the opposite. Then suddenly you've got a little bit excess product. So I think it's an interesting time in general.
I want to ask 2 questions, and I don't want to forget either of them. So the at the moment, and I look at the economic uncertainty, and I look at people talking about a potential depression first thing I'm going to want to do is hold on to cash or not go into debt if I can. Does that seem to you likely to be the decision that farmers will favor, is to be conservative with credit, conservative with cash use, and therefore conservative with planting?
What we've seen, and I've also had discussions with other colleagues over the globe. What you're seeing is those farmers who are working on programs. We've got strict programs who are not opportunistic. Let me say opportunistic growers. We've got strict programs that they follow. Those sales are coming through, so you see them ordering their seed as usual in order to maintain their planting program. So I think yes, but it shouldn't be as negative. What maybe Yaku can elaborate on is maybe it's a little bit on what happens more on the fresh produce market, where you also have on certain crops you've got farmers who also tend to dip in and out, and those who probably then not opt to plant, or probably opt to plant a little bit less in that instance.
Jaco, does the question make sense?
It does make sense, but I won't use it on Thursday when we have the webinar. But there's a saying in fresh produce industry: boere plant hulle uit die kak uit.
Die wat nou?
Die boere plant hulle uit die kak uit.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Okay, so
Produce yourself out of trouble.
The interesting part is, yes, there are your premium growers that have chain store contracts, if I could put it that way, or supply agreements with chain stores. The interesting part is, and normally they sort of start to talk about fixed prices, etc., for the season, etc., or for the time that they've got to deliver to the chain stores. As soon as you have this type of demand shifts, where it moves to the central market, the stock chain, and prices run, where they're going to send. So the potential is that some of them might say, okay, I'm going to cut my chain store program and I'm going to send to market, because cash in the bank, and it's a cash business, markets are cash in the bank is much better for me at this point in time than having to wait 30 days, and I'm locked into a sort of promotional price or a price lower than what is currently happening on markets. But normally the farmers get it right to manage that process. But you will see that kind of competition, and it's not bad, because that helps everybody in terms of the price signals. But the only thing that farmers in a way sell yield. And if there's going to be issues in terms of labor where they can't get it off, so they can't get enough into the market, that will result immediately in stress on farm level. They won't. So farmers bank income. They don't bank price. So if they've got plenty and the price goes down, they still generate the same income, the same amount of money goes into their bank. But as soon as there's that stress where you have a low yield and you can't get your product to market, that's serious problems for growers. Then you'll see growers going out of business. In fact, that will happen. We see these cycles regularly. So that's when farmers go out of business. It's not because of a low price, but because of low income.
Okay. Interesting for me there. So it's not just about, for instance, if we're talking about labor, the duration of a lockdown, it's also precisely the timing of that lockdown. So now's a fairly good time, but if it happens during planting or harvesting, we have a problem with that specific crop, or that producer has a problem.
It could be. If he's got a problem on his farm, short on labor, or he gets an outbreak and everybody tests, let's say, positive, and they've got to go on lockdown or home isolation, you without labor, you can't pick. And we're lucky in South Africa that we're self-sufficient in all of the product that we see. And so labor is fairly active on all the farms, except when you've got seed stuff, apples and kind of things. But most of the time, your labor is active on farm level 12 months of the year. But I certainly think the long-term effect of what we're seeing could be that you could see higher levels of mechanization happening. It does not mean you have less labor. You just you up your productivity, but potentially there could be labor shifts when mechanization happens at a large scale. But it's expensive. Most of the machines need to be imported. Your currency is not favorable to be able to suddenly make those big capital expenses of mechanization. So we still have time, but certainly over the long run, it will be interesting to see how it plays out.
Okay, so at what point are you working on the assumption that we end this lockdown on the 16th, Matumi?
No, what we have done also with a lot of our farmers who've got fixed programs is also to we've got sort of a head forecast, and we ensure that we supply their seeds so that if it does go on longer, in order to, because there's also challenges around the logistics, so that at least they are able to fulfill their programs. I think it's still going to go on probably a little bit longer. Maybe they may soften some of the regulations, but I think it's I foresee that it may go on a little bit longer.
What are you thinking? 3 months? 2 months? What's your sense? Well, let me ask this: what are you planning for?
We anticipate also when looking at other parts of the world. I think probably they'll need several more weeks. So I think we could easily, maybe not in the same form, but I see some tight regulations. Maybe we'll go back to the that we had, or some level of limitations, at least for the next month or so, in order to maintain the position.
Okay, and then at what point do we start getting into trouble for planting?
Essentially we shouldn't. For planting, we shouldn't as per se, because as long as there's continuous seed supplies, which to date has been consistent, it means the growers can be able to plant. As long as we are able to stick to our planting programs, then we shouldn't run into trouble. I think the big trouble is also on those crops that need a lot of labor to harvest. How do you go around managing those? And how do you go around managing your pack house? Those, I think, are going to be some of the challenges. What you see now to date is the virus is a lot more urbanized, or in urban areas. And if it were to hit the rural areas, of course, then farming communities then are also a bit more exposed in that regard.
Okay. Jaco?
Yeah, I like to say, you don't want a positive guy around in this environment. Yeah, I think all the signs are there that we would probably need more time. If the South African economy can afford it, that's a totally different story. We've got a huge part of our population that lives from hand to mouth. And at this point in time, from a government perspective, we're technically bankrupt. So it's not like other more developed economies where you've got some money in the kitty. We don't. It's simple fact, we don't. And I don't know if you can extend it for too much longer. I think you'll go into areas of lockdown potentially, or a phased approach, but our economy can't afford it. I think that's a conundrum. I think our president took the right decision at the right time, early. I hope it yields the results as quick as we want. But it's going to be a very tough task to come back if it's extended, let's say beyond April into May. Then I think we're going to be in trouble, irrespective.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm really grateful for all of your time. I've already kept you longer for this than I had expected, but this is interesting. So I think we'll have a nice conversation next week. I'm also going to be asking you, just so in terms of each of your organizations, what has been the immediate impact? We don't have to go into that in too much detail now, but what have you done so far? So in terms of RSA, for instance, have you changed labor practices? Have you changed hygiene practices? All of that sort of thing. And Matum, I'm going to ask you some of the same questions. Is what has crisis response meant to you? So what have you guys been doing over the last 3-4 weeks? What are you doing now, and what are you expecting to be doing in the immediate future? And then what we'll do is this evening or during the course of tomorrow, I'll send you a list of these topics. I'll try and organize them just so that you're prepared. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to make them. If you think we should be doing things in a different order, also please do that. Anything we haven't thought of, please add.
All right. I will do. I think.
Are you both comfortable with the tech so far? You're happy that this works?
It's fantastic, and I can see you testing, but sometimes I lose you. Your question that you ask, I lose it. But I think maybe it's because I'm playing around with the visuals.
It shouldn't be. If you're losing, it's because there's a connectivity issue.
I experienced it too.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to just then find a way to stabilize the connectivity. I think my connectivity has been fine throughout. So I think it's probably a local thing, and maybe that's also once you're both on local networks and not on Wi-Fi, I think that'll help as well, because the Wi-Fi sometimes drops just for a second.
Okay, we've found a way to get keep your mic open, Johan.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right.
I just want to get this.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. No, that's absolutely fine. But thank you for your time. Thank you for doing the technical.
All right.
Okay. Cheers, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
sir.
Bye.
All right.
Go well. Bye. Bye. Hello. Yes.